Welcome to Grow the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Mariah Crystal, founder and principal coach of AYC Consulting Group, also known as Authentically You Coaching. Grow in the Middle podcast is about real truths of growing successful careers, the good, the bad, the great, and the ugly. Here we're going to talk about navigating imposter syndrome, leaning into discomfort, and learning about roles that aren't always spotlighted or deemed glamorous. Every episode is short, actionable, and designed to give you practical insights, honest stories, and guidance to grow your career with clarity and authenticity. Whether you're aiming for a promotion, pivoting into a new role, or just trying to figure out your next steps, this podcast is where you're going to thrive in spaces that matter the most. Let's get into it.
All right. So I'm really excited about today's conversation. It's talking about the power of a made-up mindset. So all of you out there have had your mind made up about something, one thing or another, and today we're going to get into how that affects your goals. So I'm also very excited to introduce my friend, Kaivona Parker. I think Kaivona is one of those people that you just have an instant connection with. Met Kaivona back in April at the Assistant Sales Virtual Summit.
Yeah.
The Aspiring Seller Summit.
Yep.
And instantly we were just like,
I sent you a message. I was like, you're crushing it in this thing right now. I think I sent you. I was like, girl, and the glasses.
yes. And then I watched her session and I was like, her website, everything's so colorful and beautiful. And I was just like, oh my God. And I had literally started my business a month before.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, I got to get with her because I need some help.
Little did you know, I started mine a month before that.
So there's that. But a little bit about Kaivona. Kaivona is a powerhouse. She is all of the things. She's built her career over the last 15 years in tech sales enablement. She's also been a truck driver. She's sold Haagen-Dazs. And some of the notable companies she's worked for is Granger, Nestle, Teachable, Yelp, and now she's the founder of KPA. She is also known as the unboring specialist. So super excited to have you here today. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about your career and all the things you've got going on, and how mindset has contributed to that. So just walk us through a little bit about what your career is now and the path that you've carved out for yourself.
Yeah, so I always like to note that sales wasn't my goal, right? I have a military family, and I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to join the Air Force. Little fun fact, I'm 5'2". So every time I say that, I feel like I had a little bit of a Napoleon complex when I was younger because I was around all these big guys and I was small and I was like, I can do what you do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was going to join the military and my college advisor said, absolutely not. You're not doing that. Welcome me to a college fair and I'm chocolate and my friends called me Coco K Butter. Yeah, right?
Coco K Butter on the one.
Exactly. And there was a Nestle booth there. So I just walked up for kicks and giggles, no expectations, no nothing, and had a really candid conversation, and they hired me on the spot for that. That was my introduction into sales. So yeah, I was driving trucks, have my Class A license. All the bouncers at the club thought my ID was fake because I was 5'2" with a Class A, and they thought it was a fake license. But that really drove me to like proving my worth, my value. Like I was the only Black girl, the only girl, the smallest girl, like all the things in such a male dominated industry. So even mindset from back then was like, I am determined to show that I can do this. First generation, all of the things. So there was definitely a prove myself. And once I realized that the less I tried to prove myself from a like technical standpoint of like, I can drive this truck or I can hit these goals, but prove myself that I can be me and be successful, like a slight shift in how I show up. Like I wasn't wearing skirts and dresses. I was wearing pants and this. And I was like, I feel like wearing some heels today. Like, how can I do this route with some heels? Now go up into supermarkets with my heels on, right? On the days I wasn't driving the truck, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
find that space that is you.
exactly.
I think that's a really interesting thing. You touched on a couple things that I think are important. So you went up to the Nestle booth and you was just like, hey, what's up?
Basically.
The mindset of going in and like, I'm gonna get this, right? I think that's really important, especially when you're goal setting and you're thinking about your career, like having that powerful mindset. Then you switched into, you know what? I got to be the best that I could absolutely be. Here's all the things that are driving me towards that strong mindset. And now it's like, all right, now I want to be me. And so like all of those shifts in mindset are really, really important. So I love that you shared that.
Yeah.
I love that.
That was just like the first 2 or 3 years of my journey. And then I said, I want to go back to music. So I originally went to school for music. It's nuts. So I always say this quote where just because the road is less traveled doesn't mean it can't take you to the same destination. And I love to share that in correlation with my story because we don't always know what we're doing. Like 98% of the time, we do not know. So I was making 6 figures at Nestle and I was not happy. And I quit. And I was like, well, back to music. I went to school for music. I'm going to pursue music. Failed. Or, for the sake of what happened next.
Instruments or singing?
No, so I wanted to create like a nonprofit foundation for folks that are interested in music, instruments, music, vocal plays. I used to write plays. I used to be really big in the arts. So I wanted to create like an art center. I still gonna happen. Just timing of everything. Yeah, there we go. So took another path. That didn't work out. Went back to sales because that's the only thing I knew after that point.
Yeah.
And started to see that like there are not many of us here. So I'm finding success in what could my success do for other people. And even the little conversations that I would have of folks saying, whoa, you know what? I want to work there because you're there. Or I want to do it because you're there. And I'm just like, really? You don't think that highly of yourself. But it's not about me. It's about what I represent.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not like this high flu, ooh, it's KP. Like, no. It's just, what do you stand for? What are you bringing in and showing and representing? And people gravitate towards that.
So I love that because there's a couple things that I want to touch into. I want to dive a little bit into sales enablement and I'm going to come back to that point. So first of all, what is sales enablement for everyone out there who has not been in tech, has not experienced it? In its simplest form, what is sales enablement?
Sales enablement removes barriers to sale.
Okay.
So we create opportunities to make sure that every rep is trained effectively, that whether it's new training or recursive training. At the same time, we also create, in most cases, onboarding plans for those new hires. So we are the bridge between hiring and managing. Typically in enablement, you may have a group of new hires for maybe 30 days, maybe 60, 90, depending on the stage of the company and the item that you're selling or the product that you're selling. So we take you on your first day, you do your whole HR stuff, people stuff. We get you set up, show you what the tools are, show you how to use the product, train you on the product, train you on the sales motion, etc. And then we typically then hand you off to your manager and then schedule recursive trainings to ensure that you are continuing to learn, grow, and evolve in your career.
Is sales enablement everywhere?
No.
Why? You know why?
He really wanted me to get on this soapbox this morning.
What's your like?
So it's on my LinkedIn page, and I'm really passionate about this because LinkedIn did a study, the one that I most recently gravitated towards, 2023, where they say that like 80%, and my math could be wrong here on the top of my head, but 80% of companies say that training and enablement, lack of that is the reason why their sales teams aren't successful. However, about 8 to 18% of them actually invest in roles like sales enablement and sales training. So why isn't it everywhere? Because they're trying to find solutions or they're trying to make shift their own solution when fundamentally it's like you're not investing in proper training of your people.
Right.
Managers are not trainers.
They are not.
They are not.
As somebody who's been a manager, and managers are not trainers.
They're not trainers.
Trainer.
Yeah. And it's no shade.
Yeah.
It's just that more often than not, managers are managing to a number. They can deal with situational occurrences where, you know, you have to talk about IQ versus EQ and strategizing on the sale itself. But when it comes to training, there's like a psychology element that gets involved that's a foundation of my business that I don't always see, even with an enablement, other people in enablement onboarding. I'm looking at the biases. I'm looking at who's in the room. I'm looking at what their life experiences are. There are a lot more factors that come into play to train someone beyond just the metrics or beyond the sales motion, but having them adapt and bring their selves or parts of their selves to their role. It's bigger than that.
I love that. No, because you're thinking about like selling as a person who's been in sales for years as well. When I've had to sell products before or teach my team how to sell products, I'm like, I'm not gonna say it like that.
Right.
I don't speak like this, and this is not how I'm gonna speak to my clients. This is, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, learning how, you mentioned this earlier, learning how to bring yourself into the role, into the aspect of the role is so important. And I think it's a thing that people miss, especially culturally, because as I talk to my clients, regardless of who they look like, what they sound like, this is
right.
And I have the ability to connect with people, but that also has to be taught how to use them, right? And so I think that that's really important. When you think about, you talked about the impact to companies, right? Being able to train salespeople so that they're efficient, effective. If you guys have heard of ramp time, I know, right? Thinking about ramp time, what is that? Like how long it takes somebody from the time they come in until the time that they're ready to go, right? Like, and you want fast ramp time. And so those things are really important. If you have somebody who is either new to sales enablement or just new to tech in general, what are some roles that you think that they might need to start with to get into that sales enablement track?
So if you think about sales enablement, you are, again, removing roadblocks or removing obstacles that stand in the way of a person to do their job. So in my personal opinion, whatever you want to enable, you should first have completed. So if you are, if you love being an SDR, or if you love the motion of cold calling and those first, 5 to 7 touch points, and you want to train on that, do it. Become proficient at it. Know all of the objections to the point where you can like spit in your sleep. If you like the AE motion or the CS motion, whatever portion of the sales function that you like, if you want to enable that, master it first, in my opinion. I've done all the roles. So for me, the title director or VP or whatever of enablement, it allows me to move in those spaces because then I can now oversee all of the functions. If you are an SDR and then move directly into enablement, the likelihood of you getting hired to be enablement for AE is like you've never done that motion, right? So I would think about your career as a whole. And if you love BDR and you want to stay in that trajectory, cool. It's a little bit of a smaller, path.
Yeah.
But if you've been in SDR for a couple months, then you get promoted to an AE, you do that for a year, whoever, maybe CS, whatever. And then you say, actually, I've done all this. Feel like I'm mastered it. I can start training and working it. Then try your enablement.
Okay, I like that. And then for my audience, for those of you who are new to some of these terms, we've got BDR, which is a business development representative, and they're ideally focused on outbound calls and helping find leads and prospect for companies. You've got your SDRs. A lot of companies, they're interchangeable.
Right.
They're a sales development representative, but typically they would do inbound leads, inbound calls, helping prospect for companies. You've got your account executives, which is an AE. And those are the ones closing the deals for new customers into a business. And then you've got your customer success, which is my place that I live, or your account managers. So CS and AM, so that you're familiar with the terms.
Yes. Yeah.
So thank you for that. Is there anything else when we think about enablement that you would tell for someone who's trying to get into it? Any roles that you think they could transition out of first thing that comes to me is teacher or
Mhm.
educator.
Yeah.
If teachers are looking to get into tech, would you suggest sales enablement? Or is
I don't know if this is the popular answer for everyone, but the truth of the matter is I have transitioned a lot of teachers into sales. And I think it's one of the best transitions that you can make, right? I mean, I've had wild success with folks coming from teaching or recruiting and then coming into sales. The fact of the matter is you have to have done a sale.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So sure, teachers can become sales enablement leads and directors or whomever, but do the sale in that role. And also, I'm a little bit, I don't know what the word is biased, but I live my life on do as I do, not as I say.
Right.
So there's an element of bragging that I can have when I'm training because I did this. Like, you know what I mean? You can't tell me nothing. And also with my military like people I know in the military, the biggest qualm that they have with their superiors is that, maybe they went to school and they went to the military from college, but they never actually went to battle or they never actually went. So they're speaking from a perspective of they didn't do this. They just learned it in a book.
Yeah.
But where's your real life experience? Think about the president, right? Look at what they think about the president. Wow, do you have this experience? Have you been in the judicial system before or not?
Right.
The same thing applies to me when I validate for myself who I want to work with and who I want to work for. Is, are you about that life? Like, did this? What is it?
I think that's a really good point. All right. So let's shift gears a little bit. And I want to talk about the heart of today's episode, which is the power of a determined mindset. So you've mentioned in prior conversations having what you called self-inflicted identity crisis, where you've had to redefine who you are. And I really want you to walk us through that process and what you've learned from it.
Oh, yeah. The identity crisis thing is so real to me. I'm trying to figure out even where to start on it. It's an evolution too, right? So it's sometimes we tell ourselves who we are as opposed to journeying and letting our decisions sort of like show us who we are. And then we get stuck on what we said we would be. And then when we're not that, we're like struggling with identity crisis. It was like, who told you that? Who told you that you're that? And then maybe you're that for a year. And then we're entrepreneurs right now. When we go back to corporate, we're still entrepreneurs in our mind. We're just working in a different capacity, right? So for me, it was working in male spaces and then identifying as like, I'm the girl in a male space, and then saying, no, I'm a boss, period. Like, regardless of the environment.
What was your mindset in the beginning when you think about like goals and what you were going to do? Like, for instance, people, like, I used to say I've started businesses before because I'm like, okay, whatever. But I was like, entrepreneur life is just not for me. Well, my check.
Right.
And so when I was setting goals, creating this and all the things that I've been creating, it was something I never thought I would do because I was just like, oh, this is not me. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not an entrepreneur. I love to work with entrepreneurs, but like, that's not me. And now here I am. So when you think about what was the identity that you held before about yourself as relates to the goals that you wanted to pursue?
I always tied my worth and value to the companies that I worked with. Right. So, and I've been fortunate to have a really like great career. Companies like Nestle, companies like Yelp, Teachable, Granger, those are, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies. And I was like, yeah, my goal is to be the VP or, be the director. And then I started to go into the startup space and the titles got smaller and, but the impact grew. And so I'm like, why was my goal to be a VP? Like, because again, you're attached to the titles and then you kind of get rid of that and you focus on the impact and that feels better. And then you become an entrepreneur where all you have is your own name And all the 15 years of career just like go out the window. It's like you totally invalidated. Like, who is going to validate me now? Because I don't have a company that hired me that's proving that I am who I am and the goals that I'm going to achieve, I can achieve them.
Yeah.
So, I spiraled. Like, my first 3 months, I was like, who is Kaivona? Who am I? Why would they trust me with their business? Why would they trust me with their career? And I'm telling myself, chick, you've been doing this.
Yeah, because why would they trust you at Nestle and they did? Why would they trust you at Granger and they did? No, the same thing. I was like, I've got to get, my mindset was I can work my own company, but I have to get a big name behind me. And that will give me credibility.
Yep.
And then I'm like interviewing, I'm doing all these things. And then the big name that I wanted, I didn't get behind me. And they were like, we loved you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. We're going a different direction. We want you to apply to another role. And I'm just like,
can you put that in my LinkedIn review? Send me a recommendation that says that you love me.
They loved me. They said I was absolutely great, going in a different direction.
Right.
And everybody's like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, oh, I must not have been good enough. I must have failed. And the reality is, no, I think I was just asking for more money than they were. Because a lot of people understand that because. So, but my mindset was that like, oh, this is what I have to have. And if I don't have that, how can I build that credibility?
Yep.
Meanwhile, my work speaks for itself.
Yep.
Whether I'm at a company or not, anybody who's ever personally worked with me knows that my work speaks for itself.
Absolutely.
And so that is something when we think about mindset and we think about like identity, that like come into terms with. And I don't think this is just an entrepreneur journey. I think it's an entrepreneur journey too. And entrepreneurs, people who are working inside of businesses, I think that that's so important because you really need to go through the journey and start to put the pieces of who you are together instead of what people. My old boss would tell me, he's still my mentor to this day. He'd be like, you would be a great VP or CEO or like,
yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I don't
now I couldn't even, I don't want it.
No.
Yeah.
I don't.
I wanted it 6 years ago. And that is a good segue to the goals, specifically part of the question, because why is that goal your goal?
Right.
For who, for what? Let's get deep with it too.
Like why?
Yeah.
Your mindset is like, this is what you have to be.
Or even to do. And we can talk about, we shared this before. This year, I was on another conversation. I had said, operate while you're full or network while you're full and not while you're empty. And that comes from a personal situation because I started the business and I had a vision that I want to impact the sales community from both angles. I want to work with corporations to show them how to create successful onboarding, impactful enablement plans. And I want to work with the individuals to empower them, give them the training they need to show up in those spaces. And if that company isn't providing it for them, they're able to navigate. And I was empty. I was not getting paid. I made the least amount of money this year in my entire year. Like, hello, I'm like, go front. Like, it's the least amount of money. So the impact, but my point is, I'm navigating while I'm empty. So my goals change because now, forget the impact, where my money at? You know what I mean? Like, where do I go to get paid?
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with this amazing woman, Wesleyan, and she was like, Kaivona, you have to percentage out your time. You got to give us certain things out for free, 10% tithe that, you know what I mean? And then money, how can you strategize to get your money? And when I did that, my goals looked very different than what I did at the top of the year. And it looks very different now because my why is changing.
Yeah.
And if you don't hit your goal, instead of feeling defeated by it, ask yourself, why was that my goal? What was the situation around it that made me want to create that goal? Is it still my goal now? So did I really fail at it, or was it just something that I need to do in that season?
Mm-hmm.
And then
you learn from that.
And then what is the time frame of that goal for your now? If I have to pay my mortgage, then my goal to hit my mortgage is going to be very different than my life goal or my 1 year goal. Right. Stop putting goals out there and saying that it's, your forever thing.
Do you know how many people have empty goals? I mean, I've had some. I'm not gonna say I
Yeah.
will never. I tell my audience I will never shame you without shaming myself. I have had empty goals, but empty goals are so like, oh, you got to get this, you got to get this, and the why.
Why?
You mentioned the why. It goes again to the power of a determined mindset. Like it can be great for you. It can take you places, or it could really dig a hole for yourself.
Yep.
Understanding those things. And one thing, there's a couple things that you touched on that I want to tie in together. You touched on the why. You touched on like how things shift depending on your situation, which I think is important to play into the role, or to play into the conversation. But you mentioned actually in one of your previous talks, you actually mentioned you'll never trust yourself if you don't give yourself the opportunity to do something and see what happens. And that I want to talk a little bit more on that. I just want to say that most people will ask, how do you build confidence? That is how you build confidence.
And that was the exact question. The question was, does the road to navigate your life get easier? And how do you maneuver if it doesn't? And that's the answer. The answer is you have to trust yourself. And the only way to build trust is to put yourself in situations that are uncomfortable, make a decision, trust that decision, and move forward. We all know you can't grow from a place of comfort. You have to grow in uncomfortable spaces. So if you keep yourself in that bubble, in that situation, in that role, in that, whatever, and you don't exercise that muscle of, okay, I'm going to test this thing out. I think you posted something about testing. I really liked, I think it's on LinkedIn.
Sure.
Yeah. It was like, it's not failing. It's like testing.
So it has to be out.
Exactly.
You have to I need some feedback. You have to put stuff. So sometimes I just start things, and that's why certain companies I don't mesh well with. If you are one of those companies that everything has to be planned out to the T and we can't put any feelers out.
No pilots, no nothing. Just like, the struggle.
You're making all these iterations based off of just the people.
Girl.
My role is customer success, the success of the customer. And we're testing this or this service out on us only. And that,
girl,
I have workplaces and I'd be like, so one person said to me, we've got to eat our own dog food. First of all,
coming from the dog owner.
Right. That stuff.
Right.
What does that
mean?
No, we're not. No. And that, again, I think the power of a determined mindset when you're working with other people is really important as well. I want to transition into how because you're a coach. And I want you to talk a little bit about how you work with people that have a determined mindset when it is not so positive. Like, oh, I've never. Talk about how you get them out of that space. And if you can't, what happens?
Yeah. So I would say, when I first, let me back up. Being an entrepreneur has made me a better employee.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And
both now, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Right. And when I say employee, I believe that the mindset, or I could just feel that like shift of when you say employee, it means working for someone or working for a company. And when I say employee, I mean my clients are my bosses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like I work for them, right? So employee can have a lot of different definitions. In terms, it means serving, working, like in that case, right? So I will choose who I work with. And a lot of it is based on mindset. Listen, I've been not a clinical psychologist, but we have functioned as psychologists for especially in sales for the longest time. And there's some work you have to do for you. I can encourage, and I love to empower. I will tell you, I don't want your money if I have to be your psychologist.
Agreed. Your psychologist, your therapist.
Yeah. And again, there are elements where you need to be, and I'm cool. But if on the fundamental principle, your belief in yourself stifles you and cripples you to move, then I love you to life. Keep your money, sis, bro.
No, you do.
keep it, and I will work with you for free at a certain capacity, like until you get into a space.
Yeah.
Funny enough, a rep that I used to work with 2 years ago saw my post on LinkedIn, the one where I was like, I got fired, which is a whole different conversation. But he saw the post and he said, Kaivona, that post really made me smile, because we don't talk about whether you get laid off, fired, whatever, it still feels hurtful.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to him about it, I said, you have everything you need to be successful. Don't worry about it. Like, instead of focusing on this, focus on this and get better at this. And he's now got a new apartment, got a new job. And he said, Kaivona, if you hadn't had that conversation with me, I would have gone back into the service industry. His parents are plumbers. Like, he was trying to figure out, do I go to be a plumber like my dad, or do I go into tech and do this? And he's now helping out his family.
Nice.
And I say that to say, like, I'm not trying to dismiss people that aren't, that are not there.
Be plumber,
but
electrician,
right?
They make good money.
And I'm not trying to say that I'm turning away people because I don't want to help them.
Right.
What I'm saying is, I know what my capacity is. And I know that sometimes you have to have an encouraging word and then have that fortitude to do something yourself and circle back with me.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. And
Love that.
he sent a message that brought me to tears. I was like, wow.
Yeah. It's weird to feel, when you think about, again, going back to like setting goals, being coaches, power of a determined mindset, all of these things, when somebody sends you a message and like, damn, that really helped me, or that really spoke to me. And I'm just like, this. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You realize
nothing like it.
It is. It's nothing like it. But then there's also those things. I posted a video, and I'm gonna tie this into goals. But I had posted a video about there's a difference between goal setting and planning.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was a good video.
Everybody will set a goal. Everybody's like, oh, I'm not good at setting goals. No, yes, you are.
You're bad at planning.
Everybody's great at setting goals. And,
I want to be married by 37. I'm
a goal. And then when it comes to the planning, well, how the hell are you getting from point A to B? Mm-hmm. That's where most people fail. And then they don't learn from it. Mm-hmm. And so I had someone say to me, like, I think I put a question out that said, like, what did you expect? Mm-hmm. You're 5 years into your plan or into your 30s, whatever we want to call it. And then what did you expect? Are you in the place that you wanted to be? Are you beyond or not there yet? And a lot of some people said things like, I expected the American dream. And I was like,
that's loaded.
But like, even if that was what is that? Because that's not a goal,
right?
That's just a thing. Like this,
right?
It's
a vision. Yeah,
vision of what?
Right?
Because what everybody's American dream looks different. Mm-hmm. And then like, how are you setting to get there? Mm-hmm. And so in another conversation, I talk about like goal setting and then the planning and not overwhelming yourself and like how to figure out where you are trying to go and how do you learn from your goals. I say all I have to say, when you think about your approach to goal setting, what are some of the things that help you be successful? But then also, what are some of the things that you're struggling with?
So I'm a big reverse engineer the math type of person.
Love that.
Yeah. So if I do set a goal and I've established the why and everything around it,
the first step.
Yeah. First step. Why are we doing this? I reverse engineer the math. So I say, realistically, I'm a single mom. Working clients, work, all the things. So I'm giving myself a realistic timeline. So that's the ways for me. And in that, I consider what are the constants and what are the variables. I like to write out what the variables are because it can give me a sense of how constant I have to be to that. Meaning variables are my daughter gets sick, or variables are, my mother can't watch, or something happens with her dad, like something that I cannot control, that are out of my control. I've experienced 3+ layoffs in navigating COVID and all the things. Hey, what happens if I lose my job, right? Or what happens if a client cancels? What are those variables? And then I try to put in constants that I know will help. Some of the constants are just consistency and like, well, continue to post 3 times a week, make sure your content calendar is up to date, like those sort of things that keep me present in the space.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm struggling with, I am super ambitious.
Same.
Super ambitious.
My denture.
And I'm also multi-hyphenate. I'm still really big in music. I host events, I host shows, I love emceeing, and everyone always tells me, Kaivona, you gotta pick one thing, and you know, if you talk to everyone, you talk to no one, and all these things. And I'm also a rebel. You ain't finna tell me, right? You ain't finna tell me who I cannot talk to him when I can't talk to him. So I struggle with balance of where do I put this time and where do I do this? So something is going to fall through the cracks if I don't outline everything, and then you just can't always outline everything.
And can I also tell you that balance is not a real thing in this space?
100%.
Harmony.
Yes, love it.
Because today it might require you to be 100% into your, or let's say 80% into your business, working everything, and then 20% into your home life, meaning that not that you're not doing the things you used to, but you're not overextending in that way.
Yep.
Tomorrow might cause you to, your daughter, something might happen where she needs your full attention.
Yep.
You know, and that might mean 100% mommy mode, right? The next day you're traveling. So all of those things are, you are trying to work them in harmony.
Yep.
And not necessarily trying to have them from a space of balance, because balance means that everything is even.
Absolutely.
That does not exist.
Absolutely.
It does not exist.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Things, and then giving yourself the grace to be able to change those levels.
Yeah.
And to maneuver, which again is why I like considering variables.
Yeah.
Because there's no perfect plan.
Ever.
And if you try to set yourself up to perfection,
yeah,
get disappointed.
Yeah, there's literally people are be like, oh, people are like, you've done this and done that. I'm like, yo, I'm struggling.
Yeah, doing it anyway.
Even though I'm having success, I am struggling. And I think that I want more people to be honest about that. Because just because you're struggling doesn't mean, I be struggling at life. I'm like, whoa, this is hard.
Yep.
Mom, Dad, I don't know what I was actually doing. I moved out of my house. I moved out of my parents' house at 19. Nothing was going on.
Yeah.
Great parents. My parents lived in this big old house, had everything I needed.
You just want to be independent.
I experienced living on mindset. My mindset was like, oh, at college, I had an apartment because I refused to live in the dorm. You know, the illustrious A&T. But I refused to live in the dorm after they sucked me in Van Story, which was the ghetto. And after that, I got my own apartment. So I had my own apartment in college for 3 years. And then when I got out of college, moved home.
Right.
So
I feel that.
To do?
Absolutely not.
So I moved out. And that was the first time in life I understood what poverty was. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is... So in my mind, I was just like, oh, I could never go home. And there was nothing wrong with it.
Right. You could.
In my mind.
It's your mindset. Yeah.
And that has hurt me and it has helped me. It's hurt me in a way of, had I stayed home for probably several years, like my sister did, I would have saved a lot more money. I would have, my foundation would have been set a lot earlier. Mindset would have also, changed a lot in different ways. But then at the same time, being broke.
You figure it out, man. You get scrappy quick.
Like this life. I don't like this life at all. I lived in Hartford, Connecticut.
I know what that's like. I went to New Haven. I know.
Yeah.
Child.
Or the mindset for me, mindset is something now, when I think about goals, when I think about my livelihood is what keeps me going. And there, like you said, when I think about like my constant is I don't ever want to be homeless.
I hear that.
Constant for me.
I hear that.
And I'm not near homelessness, but it could happen in a blink of an eye. I do not ever want to be homeless. I think that is, there's that. But I also, more bigger than that, like I like to pay for convenience.
Get a girl, pay a convenience tax.
I think that's so important. And I think that when you shift your mindset to be more open to things and you're able to experience more things, like we've worked in tech, we've the freedom to move around, to be autonomous in our work, to bring ideas, all of this stuff. Nobody's saying, hey, Kaivona, why are you on your phone? I
Yeah.
haven't had a lunch break and I don't know.
Right.
I take lunches, but I don't have a set time. Like I
Right.
can only take lunch. All of those things can be limiting to people whose goals and visions are bigger. Where like you have to be in a certain space for a certain amount of time a day. You can only relax for 30 minutes a day or at a time, and only at the same time. When your body might be saying, yo, you need to sit down.
Yeah.
God is saying you can, but 30 minutes.
Right.
That's the most you're in that mindset every day. It is hard for you to be creative.
Yeah.
It's not impossible, but it's hard.
And I will say, I hear your point, and I also just want to, for all the people who are in that spot, to know that those seasons are necessary too.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
Because,
Sure.
yeah. And because if you can exercise restraint and not be impulsive or not go ahead of like your season or whatever, that also builds mindset, right? It builds proper mindset. That's one of those things where you say, you ask for patience and then he gives you an opportunity to be patient, you know, or you ask for whatever trait that you want and then he puts you in an environment where it's the opposite. So you have to exercise that thing. So when we talk about how do you get to have the mindset to do the things that you want to do, it is in, again, the places of comfort where, you know what, I got to do this right now. If I only have 30 minutes, how can I make this 30 minutes? Yeah, until my season comes or I create a season to exercise it. Yeah.
I love that. So, what is one of the goals that you're working on this year? And what is your plan to achieve it?
Okay, I'm going to say it.
Say it, put it in the universe.
I really want to do a college tour.
What do you want to do in that college tour?
Yes. So one of my first engagements as an entrepreneur was going back to my alma mater, and I spoke to the graduate students and the international students about the EQ versus IQ, and how to get prepared for sales roles. There are over 120 colleges in the U.S. that now have sales as a major.
Yeah.
And instead of just business. Sales specifically.
What's your alma mater?
University of New Haven. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And one of the solutions that I can provide for these colleges is that they are saying that they don't have enough people to come into the schools that have direct sales experience. It's businesses that are coming in to these sales programs, but I am a salesperson. I've been doing this for 15 years. So bringing in a workshop for these sellers and then bringing in companies, having companies sponsor them, and then having the school have those companies build relationships. So now that graduate has internship opportunities or connections with the school to apply. So it increases the percentage of admissions, people who are staying in their degree as well, because they're seeing there's a lot of dropout rate or transfers from majors. They went into sales and they switch over to business. How do you have people graduate with that degree in that major? So that's my goal. I actually just had a meeting about this 2 weeks ago, and they were like, Kaivona, you have to shape your expectations on what's realistic. Because I was like, I want to do like 22 schools. And they were like, 22 schools? I was like, yeah, because if 4 of them in New York, I could hit them, once every weekend and they could go down. Right. So they were like, well, let's think about that. So I am in the planning stages right now of reverse engineering the number of schools. I've given myself an 8 number goal, which I think is great. And working with ERGs, working with campus organizations, the Black Student Unions, the CSAs, NAACP. I was vice president of education chair at NAACP in my alma mater. So Any colleges out there, who want to bring a strong sales program to your campus, hit up your girl. That's what I'm working on in 2025.
Nice. All right. So as we wrap this up, one, I want you to give us a really quick, you have KPA, and we mentioned that at the beginning, and you're known as the unboring sales specialist. Why, how, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And then tell the people where they can find you.
Yes. So I believe that all titles should not be given to you by you. Right?
Okay.
So I was dubbed most unboring at my time at Yelp. It is one of their values they have at the company, and they nominated me and voted for me as most unboring. And at Yelp, it was defined as reinventing standard. So being more and challenging yourself. And for me, as an entrepreneur now, or just growing as an individual, for me, unboring is creating spaces that unmask folks and allow them to show up in who they are in that moment. I believe that corporate or C-suite leaderships, they're allowed to show up however they want to on the level of like SDR, sales reps, account executives, they're quota carrying roles, because the pressure is to hit this goal. When they don't hit the goal, what comes into character or to question their character?
Yeah.
What's going on at home? How are you feeling? Stop asking them how. Give them training.
Yeah.
Right? Train me. Ask me, what can I do? What trainings can we support you with? Where do you feel like? So for me, anyone that I work with, we are having an unmasked conversation. We are laying it down. We are having real talk, and we are giving you tools to be successful. So that's how it came about, and that's what it means to me. And then the second part of the question was, well, Kaivona. I'm everywhere. Yeah, I'm the only. I think there's one other person in the world, and I know who's her. Kaivona, just in general. Yeah, and I found her, and she looks like me too. She's brown skin. She's chocolate. She loves music. It's really weird. If she's seeing this too, it's really awkward. And I know which. Anyways, Kaivona Parker on everything, on LinkedIn, on Instagram.
What's your website?
apagencyinc.com, but don't worry about that. Just follow me on LinkedIn. Well,
absolute pleasure talking to you today. I really, really appreciate you coming, spending time. The power of a made-up mindset is such a strong theme, especially in this theme of goal setting, and how important it is. And what you tell yourself is essentially what you will do. If you tell yourself that you're not going to be, or you're not going to do, that's what's going to happen. But if you tell yourself that you're going to make space for the new goals that you have, and as Kaivona put earlier, that you get comfortable in growing in discomfort or being uncomfortable while you're transitioning, I think that will set you up. So thank you for joining us today.
And
yes,
say the thing out loud.
Yes. Oh my God.
There is such a difference with telling yourself something in your head and saying the thing out loud.
Write it down.
Yep.
And read it out.
I used to tell all my reps. I used to come into work as a sales rep at Yelp and say, I'm going to close 3 deals today. I'm going to close 3 deals today. I'm going to close. And the days that I did it, I promise you I did.
You do. You have to say it out loud. You can't just make the vision board and don't ever speak of it.
Yeah. My husband is finding me soon.
They'll be more specific than soon. Soon.
The 2025 husband.
He's finding you. He is engaging with you. You are dating.
Yes, and he is a man of God.
Yes, you be very specific. I'm gonna tell you.
We gonna talk, yeah.
I wrote my list of my husband, and my husband fits that 6 foot.
Come on.
Dress well. All the other things I'll list later. But yes.
Yes. Sorry, had to add that in.
We're gonna have a nice brown chocolate man.
To life.
God. To life.
Thanks for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share with a friend, comment below. The Growing the Middle podcast is produced and edited by Mid-Century Marketing Company. We aim to create engaging and relatable content that helps you chart your own path to growing the middle. I want to thank our wonderful guests, and especially you, the listener. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to let us know. Until next time.